A lot of people laughed at Johnny Carson. He had a famous smile, but his life was full of broken marriages, private pain, family tragedy, bitter fights, and secrets he rarely shared. He was the star of late-night television for 30 years and became one of America's most trusted stars. A number of people have been asking me, okay, not that many people. *law. Actually, I have to say that my wife Alex asked me not long ago. But his relationships were difficult when he wasn't in front of the cameras. His anger made things hard. The people who knew him best saw a different person. People are now interested in the woman who stood next to him at the end, years after he died. Join us as we look into Johnny Carson's life, including his work, his relationships, his deaths, and the scandals that surrounded his last years. Johnny Carson's personal life was not at all what he seemed like on TV. Come along as we talk about the loves, losses, scandals, and secrets that made the man behind the laugh who he is today. The kid who learned how to keep a room quiet. His birthday is the 23rd of October, 1925, and he was born in Corning, Iowa. His mother was Ruth Elizabeth Carson, and his father was a boss at a power company named Homer Lloyd Kit Carson. Johnny was the next to last child. Richard, who was better known as Dick, was his younger brother and sister. The family lived in several Iowa places, such as Aoka, Clarinda, and Red Oak, before settling down in Norfolk, Nebraska, when Johnny was 8 years old. That move became important because he learned how much he liked having people over in Norfolk. He was 12 years old when he went to a friend's house and found a book about magic. The next thing he did was mail order a magician's kit and start practicing card tricks on anyone who would listen. He followed family members around and told them to pick a card. Any card will do. His mom made him a cape too. By age 14, he was putting on shows for the local Kiwanis Club as the Great Carson and making $3 a show. Johnny had only just begun, but he had already found something that would guide him for the rest of his life. Folks stopping to watch him and wait to see what he would do next was his favorite part. Another thing he learned was that practice could help him feel more confident. America didn't just wake up one day and see a polished host. As a child, he practiced tricks over and over until they worked. One story said that after high school, he hitched to Hollywood and was caught trying to be a midshipman. He was then fined $50. A lot of people don't believe the story, but it fits with how Johnny was later seen. Half serious and half naughty. His childhood wasn't full of cameras, big checks, or famous people. It was based on a young artist trying to take over a room with a deck of cards and a cape she made herself. He learned to hide his nerves behind time, confidence, and a carefully practiced smile that didn't show much before his fame put his privacy and relationships at risk. But soon, something much more important would take its place on the stage, and Johnny would learn that staying calm wasn't always part of a show. There is war, magic, and a terrible task. Johnny joined the U.S. Navy in June 1943 and went through the V-12 program to become an officer. Almost at the end of the war, he was made an ensign and sent to the Pacific on the USS Pennsylvania. He got there on the 14th of August, 1945, the same day that Japan gave up, but there wasn't much of a party ready for him. Before Johnny got to the ship, a torpedo bomber hit its stern and did a lot of damage. As soon as the Pennsylvania went into dry dock in Guam, he was put in charge of fixing the damage. Taking care of the bodies and belongings of 20 soldiers who had been trapped below for 18 days was his hardest job. In an interview with Time in 1967, Johnny said it was a terrible job and adventure. Later, he went back to Seattle with the ship, helped lead a troop train that took home soldiers, and finished his service in Guam by decoding secret messages. But even during this important part of his life, he still found time for fun things. Johnny said the best part of his time in the Navy was when James V. Forrestal, who was Secretary of the Navy, asked him what he had planned for after the war. Jonathan said he wanted to be a magician. Forrestal asked anyone to show him something. Johnny then did a card trick. He later remembered how good it felt to make someone he thought was tough and experienced laugh. That moment made Johnny remember that doing tricks wasn't his only skill. It caught my attention. He had to deal with rules, danger, and loss in the Navy. It did not take away his need to have fun, though. He finally had the chance to make that part of himself into a real job when he got out of the military. At the time, his young marriage was already under a lot of stress. Johnny went to the University of Nebraska with the money he got from the Navy. He became a member of Phi Delta and kept doing magic, now making $25 for each show. He first studied writing because he wanted to write funny things. He soon switched to speech and drama because radio was more interesting to him. The title of his college paper was How to Write Comedy for Radio. It had recorded jokes and sketches from popular TV shows, and Johnny would talk about why the jokes worked. He was able to finish his degree in 3 years thanks to the project. With a major in radio and speech and a minor in physics, he graduated from college in 1949. In the same year, something big happened in his personal life as well. He got married to Joan Jody Walcott on the 3rd of October. They met at college. She was a member of the sorority Pi Beta Taffy, and they got married in North Platte, Nebraska. Chris, their son, was born in 1950. Richard, who most people call Ricky, came next in 1951, and Corey in 1953. Back in Omaha, Johnny started his career as a radio host while he was getting married and having a child. His first job was with WOW Radio and Television in 1950. Soon he was in charge of a morning show called The Squirrel's Nest. In one routine, He talked to pigeons on the roof of the building as if they had seen corruption in local government. Even though it was just a joke, it showed the kind of style that would make him famous in the future. Johnny could sound calm while making someone look stupid in the background. Beside that, he worked as the host of church dinners to make extra cash. He had made fun of some of the politicians and important people in the community who were at those events on air. People liked how he was both charming and dangerous. He could make fun of powerful people, and then stand next to them with a smile on his face. Johnny grew up Methodist and went to Christian effort meetings in high school, but he didn't go to church often as an adult. The picture of the family looked calm from the outside. Behind it, though, he was feeling more stress, because his job was taking up more time and attention at home. Johnny's job was forever changed by an accident. Johnny left Omaha with the help of a useful link. Someone he made fun of had stock in a Los Angeles radio station through their wife. In 1951, she put him in touch with her brother, who had a lot of power in Southern California's growing television business. Johnny started a low-budget comedy show called Carson's Cellar on KNXT, a Los Angeles station owned by CBS. Red Skeleton, a comedian, became interested in the show, which ran from 1951 to 1953. Nick hired Johnny as a writer in 1953 because he liked his work. Then, in 1954, an accident made a test happen quickly. Skelton passed out during practice just 1 hour before a live show. Johnny took over as host of the show. He didn't give up when the pressure got too much. He showed that he could just walk on stage without being asked and keep the show going. Jack Benny also saw him. In 1955, Johnny was invited to be on Benny's show for the beginning and end. Johnny copied Benny's moves and made fun of the fact that Benny had copied him. Johnny was a big fan of Benny's style, and he said that Carson would become a great comedian. Success was still not spread out evenly. In 1954, Johnny hosted the game show Earn Your Vacation. From 1955 to 1956, he held the Johnny Carson Show, a variety show in prime time. He didn't know what to do next after the comedy show failed. After that, he was a guest on To Tell the Truth and then became a frequent panelist from 1961 to 1962. He moved to New York to lead ABC's Who Do You Trust? After his primetime show didn't do well, Johnny was afraid that daytime television would hurt his career from 1957 to 1962. But the show became a hit. He also met broadcaster Ed McMahon there, and they became good friends. What was more important was that Johnny could talk to people and interview them without having to follow a strict script. It became one of the most popular daytime shows because of his quick answers and laid-back style. But, as the crowd grew, it got harder for him to keep his first marriage together. The next chance would put even more stress on everything behind the scenes, the job he almost turned down. Tonight on NBC began in 1954 with Steve Allen and later became a huge hit with Jack Paar. NBC wanted Johnny to take over for Paradar when he had to leave in 1962. At first, Johnny said no. He was scared that he would have to talk to famous people for 105 minutes and didn't think he could keep the show interesting. Bob Newhart, Jackie Gleason, Groucho Marx, and Joey Bishop were some of the other speakers who turned it down. NBC didn't give up until Johnny signed early in February 1962. He still had 6 months left on his contract with ABC. A number of guest hosts filled in. It was Johnny who took over on the 1st of October, 1962. It was hard the first year, but he slowly found the calm style that would make him who he is today. After Who Do You Trust? Ed McMahon did the famous Here's Johnny call at the start of every show. Carson started with a short speech and then went on to sketches, interviews, and music. Then he would often end his speech by pretending to hit a golf ball toward the band. Things changed a lot at home during that time. Things were going badly in his marriage to Jod. Carson the Magnificent's biography from 2024 talked about drunken rouse, long silences, anger, and shame. What it also said was that both partners were cheating. Bill's Zamie and Mike Thomas wrote that Johnny's drinking could bring out a scary side. It was also said that Jod flirted with other guys and made them angry at parties. After 14 years of marriage, they split up in May 1963. Johnny wasn't having a hard time as a presenter anymore at that point. He was becoming well-known on late-night TV. A model, former Pan American stewardess, and television host named Joanne Copeland. He married her on the 17th of August, 1963, just a few months after the split. In 1960, they went on their first date after her dad tried to set them up. At first, Joanne made fun of the fact that she worked for CBS and didn't hang out with people on ABC during the day. They couldn't be separated for long, though. She pushed Johnny to take the job on The Tonight Show, even though he was afraid it would hurt their relationship. He didn't lose Joanne right away because of the show, but it would soon change their marriage in ways they didn't expect. America loved him, but getting married was terrible. John Candy did more than just host The Tonight Show as it grew. That night, he became a habit. It looked like he planned his weak moments with quick jokes, and his calm voice helped guests who were nervous calm down. If his speech didn't work, the band would play Tea for Two while he danced. He would sometimes bring the mic up close and say, "Kmart shoppers, clean up in aisle 4. The show's theme was written by Paul Anka based on the song Toot Sweet. Johnny wrote lyrics for it that were never used and got half of the performance royalties. It stayed there until his last broadcast. Billy Wilder, a filmmaker, praised Carson's preparation and said that even the things she had practiced sounded natural. But Johnny seemed to have less power at home as his public control grew. Later, Joanne said that the show put her in the middle of Johnny's staff and his complaints, so she had to listen to both sides. She also said that the way he drank was like a nightmare. Carson the Magnificent says she told him, "I was married to two different people." She said drinking could make him angry, knock him out and wake her up in the middle of the night. By morning, he often felt bad about hurting her and told her he would never do it again. Johnny also showed in 1969 how strongly he felt when he thought he had been treated badly. He went after the New York Times on radio after they said he made $75,000 a week. He denied the number but wouldn't say how much he really made. Later, the newspaper admitted that it had made a mistake in its reporting. Then, in 1970, jealousy made things worse in his personal life. Later, Johnny's lawyer, Henry Bushkin, wrote that he thought Joanne was seeing ex-football star Frank Ford. One of Johnny Bushkin's jobs is to pick locks and do private investigations. He broke into her secret flat after paying the building manager. Bushkin said that Johnny had a gun hidden under his coat. They found proof of the affair inside. Johnny cried while leaning against a wall. In the evening, he asked, "Why Frankfurt? What does that jerk have that I don't?" The next morning, he told Bushkin that they should never talk about what they said again. Even with a new wife, things were still bad. As Johnny's marriage to Joanne fell apart, he met Joanna Holland, who used to be a model. She was at the 21 Club in New York with friends in the fall of 1971 when he saw her. Molly Parnes set up their first phone call. They went on a dinner, show, and birthday party for Johnny on their first date in late October. He is said to have called Joanna every day at 4:30 in the afternoon for a year after that. She had been married before and had a son named Tim. John and Joanne's divorce took years to finish. When it ended in 1972, Joanne got an art collection, almost $500,000, and alimony every month. In the end, she remembered one of Johnny's jokes about the breakup. "She gave me a Hass and a hairette." In the same year, NBC moved The Tonight Show from New York to Burbank, California, so the show could be closer to famous people. Joanne didn't want to leave New York, but Johnny told her that she and Tim were going to marry in California. Johnny shocked his friends on the 30th of September, 1972, at the show's 10th anniversary party, by telling them that he and Joanna had gotten married that afternoon, in Santa Monica. They moved into a big house in Bear and made meals, trips, and close friends the center of their social life. Johnny liked going on trips in Europe with Joanna, like to Antibes and Wimbledon, where he wasn't as well known. Still, even with this fresh start, his huge popularity sometimes led to strange problems. He made a joke in December 1973 that there wasn't enough toilet paper. People believed him, stores were emptied, panic buying happened, and then there was a real shortage. The following month, Johnny said sorry. In the same year, Uri Geller, who calls himself a psychic, was on the show. Johnny wasn't sure about Geller's abilities because he used to be a magician. The team made their own props with the help of skeptic James Randi. Geller couldn't do the show, and he later said he felt ashamed. In a strange way, failing made him more famous, showing that not even Johnny could always control what happened after the cameras stopped rolling. It was hard to tell who was the king of late nights. Johnny was the highest-paid television personality. By the middle of the 1970s, he made about $4 million a year before nightclub work and other business income. He turned down parts in movies like The Thomas Crown Affair, Blazing Saddles, and The King of Comedy by Martin Scorsese. When he felt his best, he was watching TV. That was not the case when he wasn't on camera. Dick Cavett said Johnny didn't like being around other people, and writer George Axelrod joked that he would have been the best conversationalist living if everyone had red camera lights on their foreheads. As time went on, musician John Oates remembered that Johnny could be quiet until the countdown started. When the lights came on, he changed right away into the man people knew. That excitement was gone when the show went on break. Johnny fought hard to keep this private side safe. He didn't go to many parties and didn't talk much about his background, politics, or relationships. He once gave reporters a list of ready-made answers, such as, "Yes, I did not believe that rumor at all," and "No kumquats." He also told them to come up with their own questions. His political views were also more complicated than what he looked like on TV. He was against the Vietnam War and the death penalty. He also believed in racial equality and didn't think that pornography or having sex with someone other than your spouse should be illegal. He did not, however, use the show as a political stage. He said that being pinned down was bad for him because he had nothing to lose. Later, his former lawyer Henry Bushkin said that he was an Eisenhower-style Republican who was against anything he thought was too big or mean. He told 60 Minutes in 1979 that drinking could quickly change him. He could only make so many jokes. Fred Rogers didn't like a parody that made Mr. Rogers look weak, and Johnny later said sorry. Ray Burr got sick of jokes about his weight and only went on the show twice. A portable toilet company wanted to use the name Here's Johnny, but Johnny sued them and won. He would say sorry if he thought he had done something wrong, but he could also be angry for years. Because of that difference, he would soon get into some of the most famous fights of his career. Fights, threats, and a well-known grudge. Johnny made his power at NBC clear when he said he was leaving after 17 years in 1979. Analysts thought that the show made NBC about 17% of its income before taxes. He signed a 3-year deal in 1980 that cut the show from 90 minutes to 60 minutes and gave him less work to do. There were more nights with guest hosts. Johnny was in charge of the events at Ronald Reagan's inaugural party in 1981. Even though he didn't show up as often, he still had a huge impact. Around the same time, he got into one of his worst public fights. He tried to buy the Las Vegas Aladdin Hotel and Casino, but it was bought by a group led by Wayne Newton. Bushkin said Johnny didn't like hearing that he had lost the deal. It started when he made fun of Newton on TV. In later years, Newton called him a mean person and said Johnny had hurt people no one knew about. Newton said he finally went into Johnny's NBC office and told him he would beat him if the joke didn't stop. Johnny also had a strong dislike for Tom Snyder, another NBC host. After a few drinks at a bar in Los Angeles, Johnny loudly criticized Snyder's work and said he wasn't good at what he did. What he thought in private became public. There were also rumors about a list of people who were banned from The Tonight Show. Mark Maloff and David Ritz wrote a later book in which they said that director Peter Lasley agreed that some famous guests had lost favor. Some of the people that were said to be involved were William Shatner, Carl Shawn, Dana Carvey, Orson Welles, Jerry Lewis, and Steve Allen. There were many reasons, such as breaking show rules, making crew members mad, or correcting Johnny live on TV. The list showed a bigger truth about Johnny's world, even if not every name stayed banned in the same way. The person who is easygoing could be strict about rules. He expected guests and coworkers to follow the rules, and he didn't forget a slight easily. That being said, Johnny's most famous act of payback would not be done to a difficult guest. It would go after the woman who often took his place. But before the fight got worse, he started drinking too much, and his third marriage started to fall apart. There was drinking, a divorce, and a fight that got personal. By 1982, the warning signs were no longer just opinions. Just as Joanne had told her, Joanna Holland said Johnny's drinking had changed him. The friendly TV host could quickly turn cold and angry when they got drunk. His third marriage was already falling apart, and a scandal was about to happen in public. On the 27th of February 1982, after he left an Italian restaurant near Beverly Hills, police stopped him. This made the trouble public. He was caught driving while drunk and later pled not guilty to a misdemeanor alcohol count, above the legal limit. He got 3 years of probation, a $63 fine, classes to learn about drinking, and a 90-day ban on driving anywhere but to work and classes. Robert Shapiro, their lawyer, thought they would win in court. But Johnny was done with the story. On his show, he replied, "I regret the incident and promised you will never see me do that again." In the same year, Joanna reportedly wanted to split up with him because he was cheating on her. He moved out of their home in Baird and into the Malibu beach house. In March 1983, she asked for a divorce. In August 1985, a settlement of 80 pages put an end to the case. Joanna's $20 million settlement was paid in cash. Several homes, cars, and divorce payments every month for more than 5 years. Later, Johnny made jokes about the expensive settlement, once again using humor to deal with a tough topic. Then there was another breakup, this time at work. Since 1983, Joan Rivers has been his regular guest speaker. In 1986, she agreed to have her own talk show on Fox, which would be right up against Johnny's. It was said that he thought she was being unfaithful, and he never talked to her again, even after she tried to say sorry. People stopped liking John Davidson after he started his own show. After Ed McMahon died, Rivers said nice things about him, but she said Johnny had cut her off completely. The person who made people feel welcome could also shut a door for good. When the divorce and fight were over, Johnny had been married 3 times before this one. After a quiet meeting in Malibu, the woman who would stay with him until the end showed up. The woman at the end who was next to him. It was in Malibu that Johnny met Alexis Maas after his third divorce. It was said that he saw her on the beach and that their relationship grew away from the busy social scene around The Tonight Show. A traitor was Alexis's job and she wasn't married yet. The 61-year-old host married her in secret at his Malibu home with a view of the Pacific on the 20th of June, 1987. Dick, Johnny's brother, Judge William Hogaboom, and the judge's wife were the only ones there. Their kids heard on a speakerphone, and Alexis's dad gave her away from afar. Later, the judge said Johnny didn't want to be seen and didn't forget his vows. After that, the couple went to England to watch Wimbledon. They also had fun on other trips, and Johnny is said to have learned Swahili for trips to Africa. After the fact, producer George Schlatter told people that Johnny loved his show and jokes, but Alex was his true love. When he got married, his job had already become an American institution. He got a personal Peabody Award in 1987 to mark 25 years on The Tonight Show. The board praised how he changed TV, humor, and everyday life in the United States. That year, Jay Leno took over as the main guest host, and Johnny kept cutting back on his schedule. Still, neither an award nor a happy marriage could keep him from losing his family. In June 1991, his son Ricky died when the car he was riding in went off a cliff near Cayucos, California. He was on the coast taking pictures of nature. Ricky was 39 years old. When Johnny came back on the show, he thanked the audience for their support and showed a better picture of his son than the official picture that was used in the news. He then showed Ricky's pictures of nature. He also said, through tears, that Michael Landon had called to comfort him and then died a week later. The tribute went on for a long time, and director Fred DeCordova told Johnny to end it. Johnny was so mad that DeCordova couldn't be in the studio for the rest of the show. The TV host who was in charge of every second had reached a point where things could not be perfectly timed. Alexis was left with the secrets after his last goodbye. Johnny quit The Tonight Show on May 22, 1992, when he was 66 years old. The goodbye took place over several sad nights. Robin Williams and Bette Midler were his last guests, and Johnny Ed McMahon and band leader Doc Severinsen were the main guests on his last show. There were a lot of other late-night shows that went off at that time. During the last broadcast, Johnny brought his two living sons, Christopher and Corey, onto the stage. One of Ricky's pictures was shown in the closing credits. He said that the right idea might bring him back, but he decided to quit for good instead. During the rest of his retirement, he lived quietly with Alexis, played tennis, went on trips, looked over old Tonight Show clips for DVD sets, and wrote funny articles for The New Yorker. He didn't do many interviews, and he turned down NBC's 75th anniversary party in 2002. When he did show up, it became an event. He did his own voice on The Simpsons episode David Letterman and was in a Bob Hope special in 1993. When he walked onto the Letterman stage in May 1994, 92 people stood up and cheered. He then sat behind the desk, said nothing, and went. He later said it was laryngitis. It was the last time he appeared on TV. Johnny also sent Letterman jokes because he thought Letterman should have taken over after him. Letterman used Carson's whole set of jokes after Johnny died. When Johnny wasn't watching TV, his health got worse. He had smoked a lot for many years and used to smoke 4 packs a day. He had a serious heart attack in March 1999 and had to have quadruple bypass surgery. He told everyone in 2002 that he had emphysema. He died on the 23rd of January, 2005, at the age of 79, from the disease that made it impossible for him to breathe. His body was burned and Alexis was given his ashes. The family asked that there be no public memorial. Alexis didn't make a living off of his death or write a dramatic autobiography about it. People had been interested in her for years, but she didn't make a big confession about the man she had known. The most clear message came from the life she picked afterward. She stayed away from interviews, TV shows, accusations, and fights in public. Johnny's last marriage was safe from the attention that had followed so many of his previous relationships. Did Alexis look out for Johnny's last years out of love? In other words, did her silence make people wonder even more? Do you have a different opinion of Johnny Carson now that you know about his marriages, fights, loses, and personal problems? Leave your thoughts in the box below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more amazing stories from the history of Hollywood. Have a nice trip.